I started with 5 dishes and a folding table on the side of Cesar Chavez Street. Nothing fancy, just tacos, arroz con pollo, and the slow-cooked carnitas recipe my abuela whispered to me over beans and steam. I worked out of a borrowed food truck I found on Craigslist, and I used my parents' kitchen for prep. I'd wake up at 4 a.m., scrub pots in silence, so I wouldn't wake them, then haul my cooler full of marinade down 2 flights of stairs by myself. La Mia Mesa wasn't a dream. It was a necessity. I left culinary school after just a year. Couldn't justify the tuition when Mom started having dizzy spells, and Dad was still cleaning HVAC filters for people half his age. I told them I wanted to get real-world experience, but the truth was, I didn't want my parents cleaning anyone else's house ever again. The first month I made $820, the second $300. I kept every receipt in a shoebox under my bed. I printed my logo at a UPS store, black and red with a fork drawn like a flame. The neighborhood started noticing. Word spread. Go see Donnie, the girl who knows spice. I wasn't making a profit yet, but I could breathe. And that felt rich enough. When I finally signed the lease on the restaurant space 2 years later, I didn't tell anyone until the ink was dry. It was a tired old cantina with cracked tiles and grease in the corners, but I saw it La Mia Mesa, my table. Ours. I poured everything into it. Nights, savings, my body. I slept in the office the first few months. Cooked, cleaned, paid the plumber in tamales once. My parents came by on weekends to help fold napkins or taste test sauces. They didn't invest money, but they offered something I thought was just as valuable: love, pride, and the promise that this was ours. Last year, we hit $250,000 a month in revenue, and the whole time I kept telling myself I built this for them. So when they smiled and said they were so proud of me, I believed them. Until the night they said they gave it away. I sold my first car to buy a secondhand freezer off a guy named Rick, who lived in a trailer outside San Marcos. Cash only, no receipt. When I drove back with it strapped to a borrowed flatbed, I remember thinking this is what belief looks like. Scraped knuckles, burnt fingers, and a future nobody else sees yet. Bianca, my younger sister, stayed home with her 2 kids, which everyone treated like some kind of sainthood. She's doing the real work, my mom always said. Raising the next generation, and maybe she was. But I didn't see anyone handing me diapers or rocking chairs. I was the one working doubles and coming home smelling like onions and heat. Travis, her husband, was the idea guy, always about to start something. First it was a gourmet hot sauce line, then a podcast about local chefs. He'd show up at my events with a backwards cap and opinions. You should open a second booth, he'd say. We could go big like a chain. I'd ask if he could help clean the grill. He'd laugh, sip his Topo Chico, and disappear by cleanup time. Still, I didn't resent it, not yet. I believed that family meant return, not in money, but in presence. In having people clap when you made it and cry with you when you failed. So I kept giving. I took every catering gig, every late-night order, did back-to-back food festivals, and once worked through a fever so high, I don't remember the drive home. When my parents' water heater broke, I paid for the new one, quietly. When Bianca needed help with school uniforms, I Venmo'd her the amount plus a little extra just in case. They never asked, but they didn't have to. It was just expected. Daniela handles it, and I let them. Because I thought one day when La Mia Mesa had a neon sign and a line out the door, they'd all be standing beside me, hands just as dirty, hearts just as full. I never imagined a day would come when they'd sit me down and say, "We gave your shares to Travis," as if that was fair, as if this was ever his to inherit. It was supposed to be a celebration. We'd just locked in our largest private events contract, weekly catering for a corporate office downtown. I invited the family to La Mia Mesa after hours, closed the restaurant early, set the table myself, braised short ribs, house-made tortillas, roasted poblano crema, my best, My father, Eduardo, was unusually quiet as we ate. Travis was talking, of course, about some new app idea where customers could pre-rate food based on vibes. Bianca smiled tightly. My mother, Teresa, kept filling everyone's glasses like she didn't want the silence to take root. Then Dad put his fork down. "We've made a decision," he said, looking straight at me. "We've given Travis your shares. He's going to help run things now." I thought I misheard him. I even smiled a little, waiting for the punchline. But he was serious. "Excuse me," I asked, setting down my wine slowly. "It's for the best," Mom added before he could speak again. "He has a family to support. You'll understand, you always do." She said it with such calm certainty that it took a full second for my stomach to drop. "He's been talking to people," my father continued. "He has ideas, vision, and this way the restaurant stays in the family." I looked at Travis, who shrugged like it wasn't a big deal, like he'd been handed a pack of gum instead of a stake in something I bled to build. "I started this from a food truck," I said, more to myself than anyone else. "I built every inch of that kitchen." "You still own most of it," my mother said gently. "This is just balancing things out." Balancing things out. As if my years of night shifts, burned hands, missed holidays were somehow equal to his beer-soaked brainstorms. I didn't scream, didn't flip the table. I simply picked up my wine, finished the glass in one swallow, and stood. "Where are you going?" Bianca asked. "I have to prep for tomorrow," I said. Unlike some people, I still actually work there. No one followed me out. No one apologized. No one even called the next day. They thought I'd cool down, come back, let it go. But something cracked open in me that night, quiet, clean, and final. Like the snap of a bone that's been bent too long the wrong way. Michelle didn't even flinch when I showed up at her office without an appointment. She just closed her laptop, slid me a cup of lukewarm coffee, and said, "Tell me everything." I laid it out, every word from that dinner, the sudden handoff of shares, the smug look on Travis's face. When I was done, she tapped her pen against her notebook and said calmly, "Let's pull the filings." It took her 5 minutes to find the shareholder agreement, 5 more to compare signatures. Then she looked up and said the thing that made my stomach turn. "This isn't your signature." I blinked. "What? It's close. But whoever signed this didn't even spell your middle name right. You use M. This says Marie in full. And this version, it's a draft. One of the early ones from the pitch deck you scrapped before opening." I leaned back in the chair, nausea blooming. So they forged it. My parents forged my name. Michelle didn't answer. She didn't have to. We spent the next hour tracing every document tied to La Mia Mesa ownership banking vendor accounts. I'd been careful when we opened, but I'd also been trusting. Maybe too trusting. "How bad is it?" I asked. "It's contained," she said. "They tried to assign value they never legally owned. But you need to move fast, freeze everything, refile the correct documents, and do not under any circumstance let them near the business without legal notice." My hands were shaking when I signed the freeze order. Payroll would still go out. Vendors would be paid, but no disbursements, no profit shares, no funny business. "I just wanted to feed people," I whispered. "Feed my family." Michelle gave me a long, unreadable look. "You did." And they bit the hand that cooked for them. By the time I left her office, the sun had started to set. I watched it sink behind the skyline, my heart hollow and my pulse cold. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was criminal. He showed up 2 hours before opening, pounding on the back door, like the building owed him something. Travis. I opened it without thinking. He stormed in, cheeks flushed and voice already raised. "You froze the accounts. Are you serious? That's not how family handles disagreements." "Funny," I said, stepping between him and the prep line. "I thought forging someone's name was also a bold family move." "You're blowing this out of proportion," he spat. "Your dad said I could help. I have plans for this place." "You don't even know the name of our payroll system," I replied. "Get out." He didn't. So I called Michelle. She had cease and desist letters drafted before lunch. That afternoon, Bianca texted me in a long thread of bubble-wrapped guilt. "You're overreacting. You've always been dramatic. Mom and Dad were just trying to help us all." I didn't respond, not with words. Instead, I posted a short message on our restaurant's social media page. La Mia Mesa was built on the hands and heart of one woman, me. Recent events involving attempted unauthorized changes to ownership are being handled legally. The food remains the same. The mission remains mine. It wasn't meant to go viral, but it did. Dozens of comments flooded in. Customers, colleagues, other women in business. One reviewer from the Austin Times reposted it, calling it the most quietly powerful clapback of the year. They titled their article, "The Chef Who Reclaimed Her Kitchen." My parents called that night. My mother's voice trembled. We didn't know Travis had forged anything. We just thought, he deserved a chance. He did, I said. He had years of them. And he didn't lift a finger. "We're sorry," my father added. "Then reverse it." Silence. "We can't. We already promised." That was the thing about their apologies. They always came wrapped in excuses. I ended the call and stared at the last photo we'd taken together, still taped to the fridge near the staff lockers. Me in the middle, smiling, covered in sauce. I peeled it off and threw it away. Some memories don't belong in a kitchen that's healing. The restaurant was spotless, too spotless. I stood in the center of the empty dining room after closing, watching the candlelight flicker off polished wood and glass. It was beautiful, sure, but it felt hollow, like applause in an empty theater. For years, I'd thought success would earn me a seat at the table, not just in business, but in my own family. But what it gave me was something colder: visibility without value. A name that made headlines, but not heart space. I drove across town the next morning and unlocked the old storage unit. There, under a dusty tarp and a nest of old extension cords, sat the original truck. The one I started everything in. The metal was rusting along the sides, and one tire had gone flat, but it still smelled like cumin and hope. I sat in the driver's seat and cried. Not from anger, not even grief, just the weight of everything. A knock on the window startled me. I turned, and there was Eli Flowers in one hand, coffee in the other. "I figured I'd find you here," he said, smiling soft. We sat on the tailgate like we used to, passing coffee back and forth, like we were 22 again. He didn't ask about the mess. He just listened. And when I was quiet long enough, he said, "You remember what I told you when you first bought this truck?" I nodded. That I was insane. He chuckled. "No. I said you needed your name on the sign. Just yours. Because someday people would want to know who made the food taste like home." I looked down at my hands, still stained from prep. "I never wanted it to just be mine," I whispered. "Maybe that's the problem," he replied gently. "You gave it all away before anyone even earned a bite." He pulled a folded envelope from his jacket. "I want in. A second location. Under your name. All your terms." I stared at it, heart racing. Because maybe the only person who believed in me had never stopped. Michelle called it corporate hygiene. I called it survival. We dissolved the old ownership structure. I transferred every asset to a new LLC, La Mia Mesa Holdings, fully in my name. Triple checks on all transfers. Dual signatures on every major expense. Michelle handled the filings. I handled the letting go. No more vague promises. No more in the family clauses. Just clean lines. When it was done, I mailed my parents a certified letter and a check. It wasn't a payout. It wasn't guilt. It was closure with a memo line that read, "Final contribution with love." They cashed it. No reply. Travis predictably tried to make a scene, claimed verbal promises, said I'd defamed his professional character. Michelle filed a countersuit so fast, he dropped everything within a week. "Let him yelp about it," she said. "Just make sure the food stays 5-star. And it did. Even better than before. Because I finally hired real staff. Sophia, a sous chef from New Orleans who ran her station like a symphony. Malik, a former line cook who'd been laid off during COVID and nearly cried when I offered full benefits. They didn't call me Danny. They called me Chef. They didn't expect discounts. They earned their place. And for the first time in years, the kitchen felt safe, quietly powerful. Bianca texted once. "He's gone. The kids miss you." I didn't answer. Not yet. I still brought leftover pastries to the elementary school near their house, though. Left them with the front desk under anonymous. The receptionist probably knew, but no one said anything. Boundaries are funny like that. They don't always look like brick walls. Sometimes they're just quiet fences with a locked gate. You can see through them. You can wave, but you don't have to let anyone in. I used to think being a good daughter meant saying yes, saying nothing, swallowing the burn so others could feel full. But now I know peace has a taste too. It tastes like saying no and not explaining why. It was still early when I saw her car pull up outside the restaurant. The engine idled for a moment before she stepped out. No kids in tow. Just Bianca, hair pulled back, no makeup, holding a plain white envelope, like it was heavier than it looked. She didn't knock, just slid it under the door and left. I waited until lunch prep was done before I picked it up. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper torn from one of her kids' notebooks. The handwriting was familiar but shaky. He left. And I finally get it now. I thought you had it easy. I thought you just wanted control. But now I know what it feels like to be leaned on until you're hollow. I don't know what to say, so I won't say sorry. Just thank you. For everything you ever gave us, even when we didn't see it. That was it. No signature, no date. I read it twice, then folded it neatly and tucked it in the drawer next to the cash register. Not because I forgave her, not yet. Maybe not ever in the way she wanted. But I understood. That evening, I packed 2 to-go boxes, one with creamy chicken empanadas, the other with arroz con leche and fresh mango slices. I wrote their names on the lids in thick black marker, Isabel and Mateo. No return address. Just dropped them off at their school with the office staff. No one needed to know who sent them. The kids would know. That night, I walked home through the quiet streets of Austin, listening to the steady rhythm of my steps against the sidewalk. I didn't reply to the letter. I didn't text her back. Some messages don't need echo. Some wounds don't need reopening. And some sisters only understand the depth of silence once it belongs to them. The new La Mia Mesa opened on a Friday night. The smell of roasted garlic and smoked peppers spilled out into the street as the line curled around the corner. Candles flickered on every table. The playlist was mine, full of old-school boleros and one Nina Simone track I used to play during midnight prep. The biggest change wasn't the floors or the lighting or the hand-painted menus. It was the mural. Above the open kitchen spanning nearly the entire back wall was a portrait of me apron, tied tight brow, furrowed pan, mid-flip. Not smiling, just real. The artist, a friend of Malik's, had asked what kind of image I wanted to give off. I said truth. Michelle stood by the bar in a navy blazer, sipping a mocktail with a tiny umbrella. Eli sat near the window, watching everything with quiet pride. He didn't hover, didn't push, just showed up. The food critics arrived too. Local ones? Even one from Houston. They scribbled notes between bites, asked to meet the chef. I greeted them with sauce on my sleeves and no apologies. My parents weren't there. No RSVP. No voicemail. Not even a passive-aggressive text. And for the first time, that absence didn't ache. I stood by the kitchen pass, watching plates go out one after another, yuca fries, tamarind, lamb, guava, pork belly. Every dish was something I loved. Nothing was watered down. A little girl pointed at the mural and whispered to her dad, "That's the chef." He nodded. "That's the boss." I smiled and turned back toward the stove. Later, after last call, we sat together, me, Eli, Michelle. the staff eating leftovers at the back table. Someone raised a glass. To Lamia Mesa Malik said, and the woman who made it hers again. I looked around, eyes stinging. This, I said, voice steady, is my family now. The next morning, a headline ran in the Austin Scene, Lamia Mesa reopens as the most unapologetically personal restaurant in Texas. They got one thing right. I stopped asking permission, and it changed everything. The restaurant was quiet again, not the hollow silence from before, but a warm, earned stillness. The kind that comes after a good meal and a long, honest day. I sat alone at table 7, the one near the window, that caught the morning light just right. In front of me a plate I never put on the menu. My grandmother's mole. Dark, rich, just a hint of smoke and heat. It took me 6 hours to make. She used to say anything worth tasting couldn't be rushed. The recipe was never written down. She taught me by watching my hands, not my measurements. Tonight I cooked it for myself. No audience, no investors, no family, just me. I took a slow bite and closed my eyes. The flavors flooded back memories. Not of my parents or Bianca, or the countless times I carried too much for too long, but of being 12 years old, standing barefoot on a step stool, stirring the pot, while my abuela hummed love songs from Veracruz. She used to say, don't ever serve food when your spirit is bitter. It soaks in. I didn't understand it then. I do now. I thought I'd lost my family. But sitting there, spoon in hand, steam curling up toward the soft light, I realized the truth. I didn't lose them. I finally found myself. I looked around at the empty chairs, imagining the people who used to fill them. My father with his quiet expectations. My mother with her careful guilt. Bianca offering silence in place of loyalty. Would I feed them again? Maybe one day. But it wouldn't be the same recipe. This version, the one simmering on this plate, wasn't made for them. It was made for the girl I used to be. The one who thought love had to be earned with exhaustion. The one who forgot she was allowed to say no. The one who built something beautiful and thought she had to share it even when no one asked how it was made. I set my fork down. The plate was clean. For once, there were no leftovers, and for the first time, I wasn't hungry for anything else.